I have another question from my March Patreon Q&A that I thought could get carved off as a video on its own. It's from Avi Ponder, who has done multiple trainings and workshops with me. Let me read it. Hey Steven, I came across a realization a few weeks ago that my golden chariot of motivation was being led by a fearful driver and anxious horses for over a decade now. Recognizing this was huge, so clearly I had to step back from everything. It's been almost 3 weeks since that day. I've been looking at this thing called motivation with different eyes. In my case, I've held on to the identity of being disciplined, ambitious, driven, whatever you'd like to call it, for my adult life. But now I see how much anxiety was there the entire time. The other side of my motivation coin. Stepping back from art has made me realize that drawing was never the culprit and that this new limbo is frighteningly deep. As I question these things, an answer peeks through which I know to be true, but in all honesty, is scarier than I thought. Freedom, choice, and responsibility. I feel like you've been through a similar journey in your past. Any advice or experiences you could share? Always with love, Avi. Thank you so much for the question. Well, this is a very powerful thing to notice, indeed. It's always big to get a clear look at your motivations, and it can be hugely illuminating to find that they were not what you thought they were. I do think I have been through something similar. It's very easy for anxiety to creep into your motivations, especially as you get older and the world puts more and more pressures on you. I think it's important to not frame this anxiety as completely negative. You should remember that it is, in a sense, very innocent. Your mind and body have been doing their best with what they've been given, and hey, it may not be optimal, but they've gotten you this far through the chaotic concatenation of existence, haven't they? We shouldn't be surprised to discover that this is the case, that anxiety is lurking behind our motivations. I mean, what else is our world conditioning for, really? Our culture constantly asks you to assess yourself on the level of the success, possessions, status, and projected character of others. It's the rare person who can react to that kind of onslaught with wisdom and clarity all of the time. It's natural, not at all a failure, that we would need to nudge the knobs a bit sometimes. Now, maybe reading a bit too much between the lines on your question here, but I think I sense a worry that you are going to lose your ambitious, productive persona if you play with these ideas too much, if you jostle your motivations too much. And if that's there, I wouldn't worry about it. For someone who has identified with being disciplined and driven, as you said, I think it's very unlikely that you would ever give it up completely. It is a way of being in the world that just flat out has positive outcomes. So you're going to keep returning to it, but it may be that you just need to take a break. And maybe not a short one. I mean, think big here. A break might be in the order of months or years. These things are under no commitment to work on convenient timelines. Now, if you've never given yourself the time to just take it very slowly and live restfully for a prolonged period, maybe you should try it. I mean, my God, so many people couldn't if they wanted to due to their life situation. So if you can, you really should take advantage of it. Now, it won't necessarily be easy. I'm not talking about rotting, as the kids call it. This is more like resetting to being an MVP, minimum viable person. Cut off excess projects and commitments. Just do the minimum maintenance and work that you need to do to stay fed and fit and friended, and free up some significant time for yourself. If you're used to being driven through life by the threat of mediocrity, of underwhelming assessments by others, and the desperate feeling that you have not earned your right to exist on this day, then unclenching that fist enough to let yourself just sit and be. And indeed, to sit and be with the possibility of those things happening is going to be psychologically taxing. You must accept that you might disappoint people, including yourself, heaven forbid. Learning to abide in that, to accept that, is a big step. It requires a lot of friendliness towards yourself, a lot of patience, a lot of love for yourself. Now, it's one thing for me to tell you to give yourself many hours to sit on your porch with a glass of wine. It's another to tell you to do that without freaking out or feeling guilty about it. I think for people who have based a lot of their identity on discipline and motivation for most of their adult lives, that part's going to be very difficult. People with that temperament are very used to earning their vacations and their time off, work hard, play hard, that kind of a thing. It's amazing, but so many people worry they will ruin their lives if they let themselves be too content. I mean, my God, what is wrong with us? But don't worry, this is art we're talking about. People very rarely get into art for bad reasons. They adopt bad motivators as time goes on, but they rarely start there. And I think you can get back to some of those more wholesome, intrinsic motivations. The golden chariot will go on. You just need a new driver and new horses. Or at least the current driver must go through a painful and thorough re-education, preferably while tied to a chair beneath a naked swinging light bulb in a bare room. And the horses, well, we shouldn't harm animals, so their re-education can be more tender. Some gentle, apologetic susurrations on a windswept hillside should do it for them, I think. All right, but practically speaking, how do we do this? It's difficult to get this across to artists because we are so chronically trapped in our own heads. But please, step one is connect with the body. I don't mean that in some light or superficial way. The type of connection I'm talking about is the kind that you remember, the kind that you're going to bring up in therapy. Conventional language tends to fail us here. I'm always going to wind up using that dualistic language that I just did. When I said connect with your body, implying that you and your body are different entities. But I don't actually believe that. That's just an accident of language. You are not a ghost haunting yourself. So take time to just sit with the body. That is to say, the feelings that arise, and just let them come up and course through you. Your body has done diligent, generous work to process and archive all of these conditions handed over by life and by society for all of these years. Just honor that. Do not feel these sensations with an agenda, hoping that they will go away. Feel them for their own sake. Your body is stronger, wiser, holds more knowledge than the mind. Let it speak for just a few minutes. Once soothed, calmed, connected with, better understood, the mind and the body will, on their own, begin to create some space and liberate themselves from these shackles. You need not anxiously control this process either. From where you're sitting, this process happens automatically. The body frees itself, the mind frees itself, in accordance with past conditioning, the nature of the cosmos, the collapse of the wave function. Anxiety is pervasive. It's the simple desire to control things and avoid things, but not knowing how. The body and mind can strive for anxious control of everything, including themselves. They have a very hard time accepting that there is no way to control anything, and the aggregate self can grow despondent worrying that its lack of agency means something very sad for itself, just remember, there is no self to have free will, and there is no self to not have free will. Once you have untangled this knot of anxieties, what do? Well, it's time to move in new and more wholesome motivations. You can internalize a lot of your motivators. You can do things for their own sake instead of for the outcome. You can draw and paint and be creative because it feels wonderful in the moment, experientially. That can be enough for you, for anybody, if you connect with it deeply enough. The feelings there are as or more exciting than a paycheck in the bank account or getting an email from some company that you've always wanted to work with. You can also think differently about the relationship that your work has to the outside world. Instead of making it so career-focused, you can really bring it down to a more primal level. You can just think of sharing your work as a compassionate kindness, as a deep relationship with the audience. When I'm feeling rather lost and maladjusted on these topics, a meditation that always helps me is to think of the dust, the graphite on one of my drawings as a series of instructions that I have ingrained onto the paper. And when the audience looks at my drawing, all of these little flecks of graphite, all of this dust, reflects light in such a way as to instruct the viewer's eyes and brain to reconstruct this drawing in the viewer's mind. You know, the viewer does something in the process of viewing your work. You know, they have to remake it in their consciousness, on their side of the universe, in order to experience it. As far as I'm concerned, that is I don't know, I mean, it's borderline sexual intimacy. It's extremely intimate. That's an extremely intimate relationship to have with even people who are just flicking by your images. You know, they can't help it. Even if they didn't care about the image, even if it didn't mean a lot to them, in the moment of viewing, you got to drive their brain for a split second. And if someone really liked the image and looked at it for a long time, you're driving their brain for potentially much longer. I consider that very special, almost mystical, and I consider it a responsibility to make the time where I'm controlling their brain enjoyable and worth something, and to hopefully leave their mind feeling a little elevated. Now notice that finding these different motivators, these more wholesome reasons to do your work, is also an act of creativity. It's part of the practice. It's another thing that you design. So see that as an exciting realm to explore. And in closing, I just want to say that I'm happy for you, Avi. I mean, these things are very difficult. Like you said, there could be a lot of frightening things in here. But in the long run, I think that these are the moments that we remember in the art practice. These are the vectors from which we will start to launch our artistic sorties on completely different trajectories. And that's a great thing in the long run. So I hope everything goes well. Try to relax a bit. And to everybody who's listening, I wish you much happy drawing. Thank you.